Hello and welcome to a new video. Before we start this video, I do want to just start by saying I've been a bit under the weather lately, so my voice might sound a little different, a little gross. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. I might not be talking that much in this video, but I really wanted to get this video out because it's been sitting in my edit folder for a while now, just waiting for me to get better. With that out of the way, let's start on this video. So in today's video, I will be trying out the Artify brushes that I showed a couple videos back in my Artify pens video. I'm finally getting around to using them, and they, from the get-go, they are just like some really nice looking brushes. The completely black look of them is just like an aesthetic I really like, and it comes with so many with different variations and types that I haven't actually used or seen before. So starting in my sketchbook, which is looking a little gross because it's getting to the end of its life now. Anyway, so if you've been following me over on Instagram, you know that I've been going through a fallout phase with the TV show coming out like last month or the month before, I'm not really sure now. So for today's video I wanted to do something related to that because I have been loving the show so much. There might be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't watched the show, I would recommend watching that first if you are planning on it. But for this video I just wanted to do a double page spread gouache painting with a couple scenes that I just thought looked nice, and I had a little plan in my head ahead of time of some images that would work well together. Like I wanted to have them flow, the 2 pages spread flow, you know what I'm trying to say. I wanted them to work well together and be cohesive, so I did a little plan on a thumbnail that you saw at the beginning, and here I am just sketching them out based on some screenshots I took of the show. So on the right side of the page I started with one of the handyman robots and the outside landscape from I think it was the Super Duper Mart. And I thought they would look quite well together. And then here on the left page I wanted to do the main 3 characters of the show. I've got one scene with Max and Lucy, and then the other one with the ghoul. But I am just starting with a rough sketch with just a normal graphite pencil. It doesn't need to be perfect, so I'm not too bothered about like neatening it up because I'm going to be painting over it anyway, so all of these lines will disappear. But I did want to get as much of it as accurate as possible to just try and help me more in later on. I started with just a bog standard pencil to just rough out where everything goes, and then I went back in afterwards, kind of just picking out the details and refining it a bit more, and it just helped me figure out my spacing of the pages, but also realistically how big everything needs to be, because after the initial sketch you can see like Maximus needed to be moved over to the left a bit, and just all those little things. So after doing the sketches, after that is all done and out of the way, I busted out my gouache that I haven't used in a while, and I won't lie, it was kind of gross. Last time I used it was when I was visiting my mum with all of the cats, so there were a lot of cat hairs that I had to go through and pick out. But after I had rehydrated them, I went over the pages and gave everything a wash just to get a general idea of the colour scheme I'd be working with, but also similarly to the watercolour video I did a while ago, it just kind of creates an underbase that can affect the colours above. Although with gouache it is a little different because you're working with a thicker medium, so basically all of this gets covered up later and just disappears. But I was struggling a little bit. After I'd gotten these initial washes down, it was very hard for me to switch my mind back into gouache mode, because you want to, well, you can work how you want with these things, honestly, it's however you feel. But typically with gouache, you want them to be thicker. And getting out of using them thin, like watercolour, was surprisingly a struggle. I have been using gouache a lot more in this sketchbook, and I think I finally figured out how to properly use it. But I think maybe because I took a break for a while, I seemed to reset and I forgot how to use it, which was a shame because I was really enjoying where I was at and my confidence in using colours has changed. So I think that is in part because of gouache. So I did kind of feel, I guess, a little angry at myself because I was like, I know how to use this, but I just can't for some reason. So I start with the city landscape first, and I don't know if this was a good or a bad idea because I was getting admittedly quite frustrated with it, but because I guess I kind of treat it as practice to figure out how the medium works again. I think later on I'm happier with how I am using gouache, but I have to work through it here with the city landscape first. I think also because I was trying to keep it as close to the reference as possible, and it is quite a dreary looking landscape. Typically I like to push my colours to make them way more colourful and interesting to look at, and I guess a bit unrealistic, but everything was just coming out muddy, probably because I was doing it so thin. It was just picking up everything underneath it. But I am glad that by the end of this I like it. It is definitely not worked in as much as I would have liked, but I think it's because at some point I was like, if I want to ever finish this painting, I need to stop on the landscape bit, because I was like, I can just rework it again and again and again. I could potentially never stop, so I just have to stop at some point. But I did eventually start remembering how to paint with gouache, and it started getting thicker, but I'm just not great with details. These brushes were really nice. I think they were the best thing to use for this. Using the thick one initially to plan out the colours was quite fun, and I really didn't want to stop using it. Like I even used it to colour in the handyman thing. I think it's called Snip Snip in the show, and that was quite fun because you can get some unique shapes with it because it is a flat brush, like quite a big flat brush. And I want to do more with that, I think, because that was very fun and kind of like almost therapeutic in a way. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but there is a really nice range of sizes. I think I mostly stuck to 3 brushes for this, and I want to try using the other ones a bit more, but because this is quite a small detailed spread, I had to stick to the smaller brushes to actually have things work. But they worked really nicely because all of them have got quite a fine tip. Even the bigger ones, if you use it gentle enough, you can get some really nice fine details. So I really enjoyed using these brushes. They hold the water quite well. I should check. Oh, they do say on the pack, they say for watercolour, gouache, acrylic and oil. So I guess they're just like an all-round brush. But they held the water quite well in my opinion. There might be a couple times where it looks like it's like really gross and dry, and that's nothing to do with the brush. That's because I just didn't put enough paint on my brush. But they seemed to hold everything really well. And I think for now at least, they might be my favourite brush. They'll definitely be the ones that I gravitate to the most, also because they're in really nice quality, and I won't lie, a lot of my brushes are in terrible quality. I am not nice to my brushes, so it is really nice to have some new ones that do everything that they're meant to do, because all the bristles are in the right place, they're not bent, they're not like horribly hairy, you know, all over the place where they don't keep their shape. So that was really nice and refreshing. I enjoyed using them, and I've been using them on other things as well. I started doing another gouache painting that I used these on, and yeah, they were just really nice, and I gravitated towards them the most. So I never finished that painting. I kind of got sick of it, but that is because, again, I was using gouache and I was just getting frustrated because I didn't know how to use it. But I might go back and do it. It was a full-out painting, and I don't know if I'm burnt out yet or not. You might be able to tell at this point in the video I was getting more confident with using the paints again, so I'm really happy that I started, like I said, with the background first, because I think I keep wanting to call him Codsworth. I think Snip Snip makes this page work because he is more detailed. I think it's also because he is a bigger object, because the other objects were so small. It just made it easier to get everything down, because everything is larger, I could see it better, and it's just more forgiving. So I'm really happy with how he turned out. I then decided to go in and add a white outline, because kind of my idea for it, or at least for this half of the spread, was to have it kind of look like a sort of postcard, because of the whole like aesthetic of the Fallout series. I kind of wanted it to look like a wish you were here postcard. It doesn't really end up like that, but that's fine. So I gave him a white outline, and I added in some unrealistic elements like the sparkles, and I go in and add a bunch of like particle effects, because I also realised that it needed the white, it needed the contrast. I go in and do that later. But my favourite line that he says is, "There's no fudge here." So I wanted that to be the kind of postcard graphic effect. And I decided to try a shortcut. I was lazy. I was like, I don't think I can write this nicely on the page. So I tried to use my planning as a stamp, but it didn't work, and it made it look really bad. So I do instead go in and write it in, and I just wish I'd done that from the beginning, because it looks so much better. But writing fonts isn't a strong suit of mine, so I think this was like kind of doomed from the beginning. But you know, it turns out okay. I don't hate it. It's just not it's not where I want the focus to be on this page, so it's one of those things where I'm like, just don't look at that. But here I'm adding in the particle effects, and I did get a little carried away. My brother was there at the time, and he was just watching me, and he said he was just waiting for me to stop, and I never did. So yeah, I got a bit carried away with that. But with that side of the page is done, and I am moving over onto Maximus and Lucy. This is a scene, I can't remember what episode it is, but it is when they meet the fiends on the bridge, and I just thought that was a fun interaction, and I really liked it, so that's why I included it. You might also notice there's a red mark on my thumb. I kind of burnt my thumb in the process of making this video. Not because of this video, I burnt it on the oven while I was doing something. So if you're wondering, that's what that is. and you will see it heal over the process of this whole video. Like, it's gone now, there's nothing there now, it's completely healed. But yeah, painting Maximus was fun. I really love how he turned out. I think he might be my favourite of the whole spread. And Lucy looks a bit weird later. You'll see when I get to her, but I make her look extremely tired. As for the editing at this point, I really hope you don't mind. I had to speed it up because I've been unwell. Editing has been extremely difficult because I've been having lots of headaches. So to make it so that I actually could finish this video and actually get it done, I had to speed things up, so I hope you don't mind. It does mean that you get to see more of the process. There is a lot less cut out by doing it this way, but yeah, that is how it's going to be for the rest of the video. So at this point you can see that the way I've been painting has changed a little bit. I have still been putting down the washes of initial colour, but I do then go in and add the thicker bits later, and I do think that was a method that was working for me and I was happy with. You can also see I haven't got anything planned out for the background, and initially I was planning on just having them have like solid blocks of colour, maybe a couple clouds behind them, but I was thinking it kind of was the whole point of why I liked this moment in the show, I think, was the screenshot as a whole. The colours of the background with the colours on Lucy and Maximus are really what made me like this bit, so I did then decide to try and add the background that is in the scene, and I didn't want to go in with too much detail because I did want it to be more on the simple side, as well as not detract from the two characters as much, and I'm really happy I did. There were a couple moments where I was like, this is ugly. I went through a lot of ugly phases where I was like, maybe I should have just left it. But by the end of it, it is consistent enough with like how thick I painted it, and the colours are exactly what I wanted. That I'm really happy that I changed my mind for whatever reason. I was curious. I really enjoyed this show. It has become like one of my favourite shows of all time. I thought they did a great job with the adaptation of it. I think because they made up new characters and a new story for it, it didn't feel like they were retconning too much or changing too much, and they just created a new story that was very enjoyable. And I guess I'm just curious what you guys thought of it, if you enjoyed it, if you are Fallout fans already, how did it meet your expectations, and also if you're new to the franchise in general, if this is your like first window into it, what did you guys think, you know? I'm just very curious. I've been having a lot of discussions over on my Instagram with people, which has been very enlightening and fun. And yeah, I just wanted to carry it on over here because I have a different audience over here than over there, so it'd be interesting to hear what you guys think. Yeah, so here I'm painting Lucy. I think a problem I have is I like to start with characters' skin colours before doing pretty much anything else, and this is a problem when you're painting on something quite light and you start with a skin colour. Chances are you're gonna think it's way too dark because everything else around the skin is much lighter, so the skin is the darkest part of the page at the moment. But then when you go in and add the other elements of the clothes, of the hair, and literally all the other dark parts, you then realise that the skin colour is not what you thought it would be. And I've had this problem with colouring things a lot in the past, and I think it turned out okay here, but you run the risk of well, the skin just not being right, and I think I'm lucky that that didn't happen here. But I don't know how to not do that, because the skin is like one of those things that I I'm excited to do the most because, you know, I think it's the biggest element of a person. And figuring out the face shape is very important. It is a risk that I don't know how to stop doing, because then I'm also like, oh well, when I add the darker elements the face will look better, and I'm kind of just banking on moments later in the process to fix what I'm looking at now. Because like, if you look at her right now, she looks very strange. She doesn't look like her at all. And that's because her hair was too light. But then as soon as I go in and dark it, she does start to look better. She doesn't look like herself right now. And I think that does get fixed, surprisingly, when I give her huge eye bags, which I feel kind of mean about, that she looks more like her when she looks ridiculously tired. But that is the case. And, you know, I don't know what I was saying. I went on a tangent and it kind of took me somewhere, and now I'm hoping for my brain to kick in and remind me where I was. Maybe just watch this for a second and it will come back to me. So similarly to how I did the handyman thingy mabob, the robot on the other page, I wanted to add some white highlights to Max and Lucy. There are some in the reference itself, so it does make sense, but I also just wanted it to help have them stand out from the background and each other. And I really like how it looks. I think adding the little glint in their eyes also helped make them look more alive and less like zombies. So I really like how that looks. And I also went in and added in a little bit of yellow because I wanted it to look more like an ambient lighting rather than outlining them. So ultimately I'm really happy with how they turned out. And adding the highlights on Lucy's hair, I think, made her look more 3D, and I just really like how it turned out, so I'm glad I remembered how to paint a bit by the end of it. I do think I need a bit more practice, but that's fine. I'm happy to do that because I love gouache. Anyway, moving on to the ghoul, I was kind of mixed. I thought I was going to have an easy time of painting him because his face is basically just a skull, so it is very simple. But, oh, I'm sorry about the camera here as well. I don't know why sometimes my phone does this, where everything is cloudy and desaturated, and I wiped the actual camera itself and it didn't change anything, so for a bit it might look really bad, but the painting itself is really saturated, so this footage right here is kind of deceiving. But anyway, talking about how painting him is, thinking of him as a skull makes it a lot easier to figure out how to do him, but I also think it kind of limited me because then I tried to oversimplify it, but trying to keep parts of his face that make him look like him was the challenge. And he was another one that I had to like keep reworking, and I do think I almost gave up on him a couple times because the lighting was not working. I was also getting very tired because I had spent like a week painting these guys, this double page spread, and I was also frustrated at myself because I was like right at the end of the book, and I was like, I have added on an extra week when I could have finished this book days ago. But I really like how this ends up looking, so I am really glad that despite everything I did do this. I like to exaggerate his eye sockets because the actor himself does have like prosthetics that I think are made to make it look like his skin is pulled tight over his skull. So remembering how like a skull works is actually really handy because you have the eye sockets. His cheeks need to be very gaunt, which actually helps with expressions. And yeah, it was fun, but I struggle with adding the texture because he is meant to be radiated or irradiated. His skin is meant to look like kind of like chemical burns and stuff, and I struggle not to just make him look like a really smooth skinny man. I did try and keep some of the blue lighting on his face because this is another scene where the lighting was just really fun and why I was drawn to it. But it does kind of just look like he has blue eyebrows, which I also kind of like, just the thought of him with blue eyebrows. It's hard to tell if it works or not. Yeah, adding in the background again, I wanted to do what I did with the Lucy and Maximus piece, where there are just shapes to imply the details in the background, and I go in a little bit later and add those, but right now, this was one of those days where my brain was like, okay, we need to add all the details, and it might look a bit messy, but by the end of it I was very glad of it, and I think it fixed a lot of the issues I was having with looking at him. And yeah, I don't like my images to be too smooth. You might know this about me if you've been listening to the ramblings that I say all the time. But I like to have texture on my pieces, so having all that on his face made me like it a lot more. And yeah, I'm just going in and this piece is, a lot of it is in shadow, which was difficult to make it not just look like one solid lump. So I'm going in and trying to add just like shadows where they need to be, and I think it worked out. So I really like how this looks. So here is where I'm adding in the background shapes, and it is just meant to be like darker variations of the green background, I guess. I really liked this scene. I thought it was fun, and the colours, as soon as I saw that scene in the show, I was like, that is something that I would either love to paint or love to see someone else paint, because it looks like You know when you see those really cool concept art that artists do for like games or shows or things where it's like very general broad shapes but you can see what's going on and it looks like a beautiful masterpiece? When I was watching that scene, I was like, this is one of those scenes where that you would look at in a concept art book and be like, that is a nice scene, that's a really cool idea. Like, this show had a lot of really nice cinematography, and I was just really happy with how this show turned out, because it could have been terrible. But I think because they leaned more into the Fallout 4 aesthetic rather than the ones before it, I think that's why it worked for me, because the other games are good, don't get me wrong, but they are a lot dirtier, they are a lot blander, and that is kind of like the whole point because it is post-apocalyptic. But I did really like in number 4 that there were some super colourful moments, because I kind of think it created the like kind of juxtaposition that I like in things. I also, on this piece, I added in Radiation King at the bottom because it looked like it was missing something and I really wanted to add text of some sort, but I wasn't sure what. And this TV in this scene, the logo for it is actually Radiation King, and I thought that kind of just fit perfectly for the ghoul, you know, considering what he is. So I really like that little piece that I added, and I do think it fixes the problem I was having with it. So yeah, that is this video. Slightly longer than my normal ones, and I hope that's okay with you. Yeah, I've had a lot of you guys saying that you like my long videos, so yeah, I really hope you like this one. That was using these Artify brushes. I think these 3 are the ones that I used the most, so that is 5, 1 and 0. And maybe I need to look after them a bit better. But they were really good. I'm really chuffed with how these worked out. Having a good brush is always extremely important. So that is the spread. I really like how it turned out. I'm really glad I pushed through my frustration. I just really like how all the colours look together. I think actually having this side be so saturated and this one being so like orange yellow hues, I really like it, and I think it works, but maybe not to the extent, but I think it's also because of like that whole thing of like orange and blue, like I think it's cyan and teal and orange are like 2 colours that I think everyone knows always work well together. That's why it's used a lot of the time in things like sci-fi lights and stuff. Just rambling. So maybe that's why I like this spread. But yes, I want to thank Artify for sending me these brushes to try out, letting me take my time using them. I will leave a link in the description to their shop where you can get their brushes. I have a discount code as well, discount code static10 on their shops. It gives you 10% off all their items across their website, and that is valid until the end of July. I want to thank Artify for sending me these brushes. I want to thank you guys. If you watched this far into the video, hi, thank you. And I want to thank my Patreons: Disby, Megan Palmer, Grimclow, Non-Toxic, Saint Nix, LP, Kira May, Kay, Annabelle, Joanna, Sir Studalot, Mila, VB, Pretty Rotten, Crescent Frog, Joanna Snake Moon, Humble Frogs, Local Fishkeeper, Mould Ghoul, Art Mancy, Farrar Ware, Sun Arts, Blake, and Molly Marula. Thank you guys so much for choosing to support me. I really appreciate it, and hopefully I'll have another video out soon. So I'll see you then.